bitch so bad, I wanna shoot like hoops while I'm riding in the coupe. I got what you want, it ain't nothing but a loop. Yeah. Don't listen to friends, they don't know what's best for you. Yeah. I want you, shoot like hoops while I'm riding in the coupe. I got what you.
What's up, everybody? My name is Mason Marquis. I'm with Jackson Gamber. Today we have a special guest, as you guys can see. I'm going to let Jack introduce him in a second. This is Season 2, Episode 2. Take us away, Jack.
So he was a finalist for Gatorade Player of the Year in PA, one-time All-Region, two-time All-State player. He graduated from the University of Penn and won Most Improved Player his freshman year of college. Former Division I soccer player Alex Kades.
Hey guys, I'm happy to be on the show. I'm excited to be on the podcast. This is actually my first podcast I think I've ever done.
Wow. Are you a big podcast listener or anything, or not a big podcast guy?
No, I am. In the future, hopefully when my following gets big enough, I'd love to have a podcast. I'm just really focusing on trying to grow an organic following. And then once, I have some people that like listening to my voice and like listening to my opinion, then the podcast will come next. But right now I'm just focused on, we can get into that a little more, just trying to gain a following on social media.
Yeah, Jack sent me your TikTok. I was watching a few of the videos. I like your D1 videos. Like, are you good enough to play D1 soccer?
Thanks. Yeah. I can't really remember where those came from. Obviously, as a soccer coach and trainer, I'm trying to make my videos tailored to a certain audience. And that audience is probably, if I had to assess it, probably like ages 10 to 16. So middle school, high school kids. And I remember when I was looking to play in college and just starting off playing soccer, I was always so curious how good I was, other than what my mom and dad and coach told me. I wanted to always hear someone else's opinion. So what I realized is, playing at a pretty high level of Division I ball, I think I have an opinion that is held highly by some people. So I figured that if young kids want to hear my thoughts on their game, I made a video of a kid I knew, and I thought that he was a Division I player. His name's Aiden Suarez. He plays for Nashville, and we were connected through my TikTok.
Oh, wow.
And I made him a video, and then I got like 10 DMs that night. So I was like, this is probably going to become something. And I try to look through every Instagram DM I get. It's getting a little heavy. I'm getting a little bit flooded, which is definitely a good thing. And yeah, just try to give my honest opinion. If a kid isn't as good as college soccer, I try to give him some feedback. So it's not just like I'm being mean about their highlights. You can get better at this, and this. And obviously my opinion isn't the end all be all. I'm not even involved in the college game anymore. But I appreciate the love. Just a little background on that.
How did you make the transition from playing in college to then becoming a trainer and a coach?
I kind of backed myself into a corner, to be honest. After college, I didn't really apply for any jobs. Usually when you're in your senior year, you apply for jobs, and most people end up getting a job and working, corporate world, New York City. A lot of my friends live in New York City. Some of my friends live at home, but just because logistics, they still got a job. And I always was a trainer on the side, because I always had the credentials to do it. And when I really put myself out there, people wanted to train with someone that was a a current Division I player, which, looking back, if I had the access to someone like me, I would have trained with me if it worked like that. So in the back of my mind, I always knew that training would be an option. I live at home. I have connections from the past 4 to 5, even like 6+ years. I've been doing this for so long. So I graduated in May and just got to grinding on getting new clients. I started an Instagram where I was originally posting other kids training to just show what we do and try to get more clients. And that was good. I picked up a good amount of clients just through Instagram. And then to go beyond your question, it kind of just transitioned to, I should start filming myself. I've always, my best part of my game has always been shooting. And I feel like that's the part of soccer that even non-soccer watchers like to watch is someone that can shoot really well. So I figured I just need to start shooting and taking videos. It snowed like 4 inches today in Philly. You guys are from Philly, right?
We're from like South Jersey, Philly area, so
So
definitely we got
it
hit some
snowed
a little bit.
like 4 inches in my area.
Okay.
And I was like, I just got back from an hour or two ago. I was like, I need to go film in the snow. Like, no, I don't see any videos of anyone in the snow. So I went to the field, brought a shovel, plowed like 6 yards of space, and then just stayed at the field for 2 hours just ripping shots. So we'll see if I can make a nice little video out of that. That's as soon as we hang up, I'm gonna put a video up on TikTok. So you guys can let me know what you think.
How long does it usually take to edit your videos, or is it kind of just like raw footage and then you just throw it together?
I'm definitely getting better. It's like anything else. When you do something more, you learn tricks and ways to cut time. This one in particular took a while, just because I'm starting to get really particular now that I have a lot of videos, and I'm trying to. I can't believe I'm saying this. Just become a better content creator. I never thought I'd be saying something like that, but at this point, I have a couple thousand followers, and I don't see why I can't exponentially grow those and turn those followers into like an engaged community. And so yeah, the editing is coming with time. I'm just going to start buying things that enhance my videos. I just got a new camera, tripod. The mic is really important. What I've learned from taking and watching videos is there's like, I say this to people and they laugh at me, there's like an ASMR factor in soccer. So the ball hitting the net, my foot hitting the ball, and like my foot on the turf are 3 examples. So to answer your question again, in a long, rambly way, the editing takes, if I want to make a really good video, it takes a little while, but no more than an hour. I use CapCut.
Right.
It's easy.
Yeah, we do too.
All right, I know Jack has a couple questions, so I'll let him take it away.
Okay, so what were the main differences that you noticed between Division I soccer and like other levels of soccer that you played?
So other levels of college, or other like my high school and club team going in?
Like high school and club team.
Yeah, it was a huge transition. I struggled as a freshman. I was probably 140 pounds going in to freshman year, and I probably put on 20 pounds in 2 years of muscle, just because when you're in high school and I played on a really high club team, you can get away with being fast and having a good shot, and if you don't have the best first touch every play. But the college level, just every touch you're expected, every first touch has to be good, every pass has to be to the right foot. And the thing with college is our team was it was a pretty standard size, but you have like 25 kids that can all play. So if you're not doing the job, they're just going to sub you out. Whereas sometimes in club and academy, you have like 14 good kids, and then the end of the bench isn't as good. So I would say that the main difference was certainly physicality. You get like 6'4", 6'5" center backs that are, a lot of them. I remember when my freshman year, our center back, who was our best player, went on to play USL. He was just a beast. His legs were like bigger than my whole body. So it was an adjustment learning how to play with, because I'm 5'8", so I'm not big. So it was a huge adjustment learning how to play against players that are way bigger than you. Because even in high school and club, you play those players, but they're not technical on the ball. So when you play a 6'5" kid that can pass just as well as you, but then can also throw the shoulder on you, it's like, damn, I need to figure out ways around him.
Was there ever a player that like the second you got on the field, you just looked at them and you were like, this player is like absolutely amazing and like better than anything you've ever seen?
I had a couple teammates. One of my good friends right now is playing for the Cincinnati second team. I'm praying that he gets a call up to the MLS, because I'll give him a shout. His name's Ben Stitz. He's from the DMV area. And we actually played him once in club soccer in like the national tournament, like a group game, and they beat us like 5-0. And I knew, because he was already committed to Penn, and I was a year younger and I was already committed, so I knew I was going to be playing with him. And I was like, damn, if that's the level of player I'm playing with, like I need to step my game up. But he was one of our best players. He's playing, like I said, right now, second division in the, I guess it's MLS Next Pro. But I'm really hoping that he gets a call up to the first team, because he's a baller. He can put the ball in the net with both feet. He's really good.
That's awesome, man.
And that's one of the craziest things to me. Like, this is one of the best players you've ever played with, And right now, like, he's still not at the top level of MLS. Like, the players that are playing in that MLS, I feel like sometimes is disrespected.
Yeah, like frowned upon.
But, like, those players are still absolutely insane.
Yeah, so a little bit before, like a little bit of background pre-club in high school. I played with the Union Academy before it was even a Union Academy, and I was actually offered a spot, and I just decided not to take it. So my trajectory would have been maybe a little bit different. But I played with some ballers back then, and like I didn't know it I knew it at the time, but I was at that same level, and you just see some kids progress. I didn't play with Paxton Aronson. He was, because he was 3 years younger than me, but he was called up to one or two of our sessions and just like handled himself. Was 3 years younger, could slide right in with some of the best players in the area. But it's just funny because, like anything else, some people blossom really late. Some people blossom in college. Some people blossom like right at the pro level. But I definitely played with I played with kids that are playing right now in the MLS. I don't know if I played with anyone that's in Europe, but at the end of the day, people like to diss MLS because when you compare it to the other American sports, it's not the same standard, but you're still playing like a top 12, I would say top 12 league in the world. And at the end of the day, so many people play soccer. It's still an incredible achievement. Like I wasn't good enough to go to MLS. So I respect anyone that's able to play MLS Next Pro, US. I know there's so many divisions now, but just being able to say you're a professional football player, professional soccer player is an achievement for sure.
All right. Moving on. So in your TikToks, you talk about your ability to use your weak foot, which your left foot's insane.
Thanks, appreciate that.
You said how it's a major factor it was a major factor for your recruitment. What other key aspects are like necessities into getting into Division I soccer?
Yeah, so my having a weak foot's definitely not a necessity. You'd be surprised how many kids are just so good on their dominant foot that they don't even need a weak foot. You see some of those guys in the pro game. An easy example that comes to my mind is Bernardo Silva. Not saying he doesn't have a good weak foot, but he's so left foot dominant, or like a Riyad Mahrez. I don't know why I'm just picking like former Man City or current Man City players, but those two in particular were just wingers that they're so good on one foot. Arjen Robben's a perfect example. Like, he didn't need a right foot because he could just get to whatever spot he needed on his left foot and score. So weak foot, like, as you said, was not a necessity. It was just something that I guess made me more appealing to recruiters. Necessity going into the college game, it's a tough question. I would say you have to be technical on the ball. There's definitely some kids that committed just because they were athletes, and then the technical ability came after. But you need to be able, like, at the bare level to like take in a pass and get it to the next spot without the ball bouncing in the air, without you playing the ball at someone's knees. I didn't realize until college, but there was a tremendous emphasis on just passing drills. Like, sometimes for 35 minutes before practice, we just do passing, like the same passing drill, and we would do like different variations. It was like, wow, they're like really nailing us down. But it's because, especially in college, the margins are way smaller. So one bouncing ball, you pass me a ball and I take a touch that bounces up, the defender's going to steal it. Whereas on like lower levels, the defenders are slower. There's more time on the ball. So I would say the biggest necessity is being able to be technical. And it's such a broad term, but I would just summarize it as, if you play me a ball, I'm able to control it and move it on. Even if you play me a bouncing ball, I can pluck it to the next person.
So you went through a lot of hard work and dedication to get to the Division I level. So how were you able to balance academics while doing all this? And what kind of sacrifices did you have to make?
So before, you're asking about before I committed, what sacrifices and did I make?
Like just like in general.
Yeah.
Like Division I.
It's funny because at the time, when I was still in high school, and whether I was committed or about to commit, it felt like I was sacrificing a lot, but I really wasn't. The things that were missing at the time felt like a big deal because, you know, all your friends are going to this party that you can't go to because you have a soccer tournament the next day. Or the one that comes to my mind is I didn't go to prom as a senior, and then you go to after prom in like some house in the Poconos, and I couldn't go to that, but I couldn't go because I was playing in a professional game in Alabama, which is way cooler anyway. Like, and at the time I was so upset about it. And I remember having a conversation with my parents, and they're like, "You're going to look back and you're going to remember this game. You're not going to remember." So at the time, the sacrifices seemed way more to have way more magnitude than now. Academically, I would say it was funny. And this is how I was in college. I always performed better when I had soccer, when I was in soccer season, because I knew that I had a lot of time to do my work and I couldn't procrastinate. You know, it was like I practice at 7. I have to have everything done by then, because when I'm done practice, I'm shot. Like, I'm done. I can't do anything. I can't think. I'm going right to bed. But when there was no soccer was when my grades would drop, and because I would have all day to do stuff, and it was like, I'm just going to put it off. So to answer your question, I don't think I had to sacrifice that much. At the time, I felt like I was sacrificing things, but I was also at a point where not many people in my circle, like no one in my circle, I had like a couple friends that were athletes, but no one was on the same path as me. So some people would be like, you know, why can't you come to this? Why can't you come to that? They didn't really understand what I was trying to achieve. So in the long run, I didn't really have to sacrifice much.
Gotcha. This is one that I've really looked forward to asking. It's who are your soccer idols growing up, and what players did you like see and try and like replicate their play style?
Yeah, that's an easy question. Eden Hazard is obviously Messi is the best player ever and the best dribbler ever, but Eden Hazard is just different. It's hard to explain because I can't say I emulated my game after him, because he's just so far superior to me or almost anyone that's ever played soccer. But the way in which he dribbles, I actually made a video on my TikTok that kind of went viral.
Yeah, the one where I saw that one.
Yeah, he just had so many, like just thinking about the things he taught me about soccer, like off the top of my head, he would always have this one move where he'd cut it's the same thing I use with kids today when I train them. He had this one move where he'd receive the ball and then cut across the defender, so that the defender tried to poke the ball. You're going through Hazard, so you're fouling him automatically. So there were like endless amount of times where he'd make that move and the defender would just let him go, and then he's in on goal. He's obviously scoring. So Eden Hazard was easily my favorite player ever. It's sad to see him retired, but at the end of the day, like, he brought me so much joy, and him going to Real Madrid, I only watched the Prem for the most part anyway. So that was just him leaving and then doing nothing there and retiring didn't even make me that upset. His career at Chelsea was phenomenal. And then I'll give you an answer that's more Arsenal related. Alexis Sanchez is the best player I've ever watched at Arsenal. If you say Mesut Ozil, you're crazy, because Alexis just showed up every big game. I think his first Champions League game was against Borussia Dortmund, if I recall correctly, and that was like right when I was really getting into Arsenal. And he just put on a masterclass. I think he scored a beautiful goal. I remember him like in the corner toying with some player. But Alexis Sanchez is my favorite, easily my favorite Arsenal player. As many good players as there are today, some compare, but he was just different. It was also the fact that the team back then was not nearly as good as it is now. So he just stood out. If he was in this team, I think he'd be a little more of a role player and wouldn't be able to show his quality. But to answer your question, Eden Hazard is my inspiration for soccer easily. And Alexis was my Arsenal inspiration. Just watching him, he was a wizard. He was a wizard on the ball.
Yeah, I mean, he probably – it'd be nice to have him now since of our whole striker situation.
Yeah, don't get me started with that.
All right. Mason,
we did have some icebreakers that we were supposed to ask, but I kind of just jumped into the conversation before we got that. If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, probably more soccer-based, who would it be?
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be soccer-based, because my answer.
It doesn't have to be.
It's athlete-related. He's not a soccer player, but he's into soccer. My favorite athlete growing up was Kobe Bryant. I went to school like 10 minutes from him, and I just remember. I don't know where I would just hear stories about him being in the gym until not leaving the gym, like always in the gym. And he inspired me to become an athlete. I didn't know what sport. I was a big basketball player. I'm 5'8", so I realized there was a point where I wasn't going anywhere with it. So, Kobe, yeah, I think I'd want to sit down with him. Obviously, the way he died was absolutely tragic, and he was so young. Like, I just saw a tweet the other day. Everyone knows where they were. We're all too young. Like, I was just born, but everyone remembers where they were for 9/11, and then someone like retweeted, everyone knows where they were when Kobe died, and I know like exactly where I was. Like, I was in my dorm room freshman year, like taking a nap. I still remember.
Yeah, I was with my mom at my cousin's basketball game, and every time I drive by, I always think like my cousin was playing basketball. Every time I drive by, I'm like, I was right there when Kobe died.
But I'll give you a soccer answer. I gotta go with Arsenal. I was gonna say Arteta, but I'm not gonna say Arteta. I really liked, and I don't want to say Pep Guardiola either.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I don't know if you guys know this, Jose Mourinho just got fired. I would love to sit down and chat with him.
That would be a good one.
I think he's on like 4 or 5 red. I might be exaggerating, but he's on like a couple red cards this year. He's just such an interesting character. I think some of the managers that are like top managers would be really cool to sit down and for me, especially as a coach and trainer, like hear their soccer analysis. But I'm more interested in like the person behind the manager, for example. So I think Mourinho. There's probably someone that outside of a manager that I'm forgetting, but that's who came to mind.
Yeah, and I mean, think about the person. Like, if you get along with the person, I feel like they can help you as a coach or as a trainer even more, because like they'll give you more personal answers on how to help you directly. Because as much as managers like to help, they'll always just like give like more of a straight answer instead of like going into depth sometimes. All right, I know you have one more question for him about the icebreaker.
What is your most memorable moment in your career?
So yeah, to be completely honest, I got time in college. I didn't play as big of a role as I expected going in and maybe deserved. So as a freshman, I won most improved player, which meant a lot. But then COVID happened and kind of just dismantled all that. It was pretty bad timing. So I'd have to go back to. It's a hard question. I'd have to go back to like my high school years. I scored some big goals, but probably for club. When I started club, when I started soccer in general, I just wasn't very good. And it just took years and years for me to even get on like the top team of our travel team system. And on that team, we were really good. We were one of the best teams in the country, and we could like never win our state final. Got this new coach who I'm connected with today as like a business partner. Like, we do things together, and he was such a hard coach. Like, we would go. He was our coach, and he took over in the summer. So we would go to this national park and just run. I can't even explain. We would just run into the forest and then run back out. Like, I couldn't tell you how far it was. I couldn't tell you how long it was. So we were in great shape. We ended up winning states that year, and we won regionals. And I don't know why, like, states was a big deal, but regionals, like being able to go to like my first national tournament just like meant a lot. Just being someone a couple of years before that wasn't really good at soccer and progressing so quickly, it was definitely an emotional moment for me. And then like I scored a lot of big goals in high school. I scored an overtime winner, which is pretty cool. Like, ripped my shirt off. I don't even remember it.
That's awesome.
But unfortunately, yeah, like in college, I couldn't really replicate those moments. I just had not as good of a go of it. But to be honest with you, like, it kind of pushes me right now to be successful in what I'm doing. So hopefully it turns out to be a good thing, I guess.
We're going to move into American soccer, so the U.S. international team. What is your whole opinion on, like, Gio Reyna as a whole? So he had that situation with the international team, and it seems like something similar is going down in Dortmund, and he's, like, complaining about, like, PT, like playing time, and he's looking for a new club right now.
So I'm going to answer that question indirectly, and then I'll get back to it. With regards to the U.S. national team, maybe Gio Reyna has some shortcomings, but Greg Berhalter is the worst coach in coach history. Again, I'm going to answer your question indirectly, but I'll get back to your question directly. Greg Berhalter is the worst coach in coaching history again. He's unqualified. He got the job because his brother is in the U.S. hierarchy. I'm pretty sure that's nepotism. And when it comes to his actual coaching, now I'm naming things that are before his coaching. He's inept at changing systems at halftime. For example, I think we played Germany in a friendly a couple months ago. In the first half, we looked great. We were just bossing them. It was a 1-1 at half, but we deserved to be up. And the second half was as if the German national team coach was like, all right, we're just going to make adjustments, and they're not. And they came up and whooped us. I think it was 3-1, maybe 4-1. Yeah. So he see, you guys got me started now. If you want to talk about the personnel he brought into the World Cup, he brought no striker. He left. Is it Ricardo? Is it Ricardo Pepi? What's his first name? Ricardo, right?
Yeah, Ricardo.
He left Pepi at home, who was a European striker, and the guy he brought, in the biggest game in the knockout round, he started a guy that hadn't played all tournament, plays in the MLS. Not to slight the MLS, but I'm going to slight it when it comes to international soccer, and Jesus Ferreira was Netherlands' best player in the first half. He gave them like 2 goals. So his personnel choice is horrendous, and his in-game adjustments are horrendous. So those are 2 huge turnoffs as a U.S. fan. So in my opinion, when it comes to the Copa America this summer, if we don't go to the semifinal, he should be fired. But I could see us losing all 3 games in the group stage and him still having the job. So back to your question about Gio Reyna, when it comes to his dynamic with the U.S. men's national team, I think Gio Reyna, it seems, as you alluded to with Dortmund, he's a different personality. But sometimes when your different personality is one of your best players on your team, you have to adjust as a manager. And rather than tell, and these are rumors, but this is what it came out in the media, was that he told Gio Reyna that he wasn't going to get much PT before the tournament started. So I don't know how you tell one of your best attacking players he's not going to get PT. What if there's injuries? What if things happen? There's just nothing set in stone. So I think his attitude was a little justified, being pissed off. When you look at some of the guys that were playing on the field, it's something that not everyone has their different opinions, but he was better than some of the guys playing. So he deserved playing time. And then your question about Dortmund, I don't follow. I've seen. I use FootMob, so I'll go through like the games each weekend, like the Dortmund, like sometimes, and he's always on the bench and he's barely playing. Look, it's a really good team. He just needs to find a new club, in my opinion. He's young. He's like undoubtedly has his quality. So I think the U.S. situation is not his fault. Maybe a little bit. It was a whole thing with his dad and Berhalter, which is at the end of the day is just unprofessional. Which is another reason why Berhalter shouldn't have the job. Is just all these like odd things that you don't think about with. You don't associate with a professional team, especially a national team, like leaks and players' dads fighting the coach. It was just so unprofessional. So I don't think it's a big deal. Well, it is a big deal, I guess, if Berhalter's still there, which he probably will be. But I think Gio Reyna, he'll find a team that wants him. He's class. He's a class player.
Yeah, he is a really great player. Do you have any like guesses maybe where say he does get a January move? Do you think?
I mean, I'm just going off of what I read. I saw something about Real Sociedad, which is a Champions League club. So he needs to be playing Champions League. So I'd be happy with that. It's hard to say. I have a hard time because every league's different. There's different play styles, different possession-based counterattack. I don't know. Again, I watch the Prem. Like, I watch the Prem every weekend. I can tell you I can allude to every goal that's been scored this year. Just I'm obsessed with the Prem. So when it comes to other leagues, like, I know obviously like every player on every team, but I don't know. And I know Real Sociedad's like a top team. I don't know how they're doing in the league, but they're still in the Champions League, so they're a good team. So is that a good fit? I have no idea, but it's a Champions League team, so he's playing high-level soccer. So I would say it's a parallel move. He's not dropping that much from Dortmund.
Yeah.
So we did have this question written already, and you kind of went into it without us having to. If the U.S. were to fire Berhalter, where should they look, and do you have any ideas on where they should go for a coach?
I mean, right when talking about Mourinho, right when Mourinho got fired, I there was a Twitter account that quoted him a while. I'm not sure how far back, but he has expressed intent on coaching in the U.S. It was misleading whether or not he addressed it as if he would want to be the U.S. men's national team coach. But you got to go for it at that point. And again, it's hard to say how a coach of club level can transition to the national team. But in my opinion, the World Cup, for example, and all these tournaments are essentially win or go home if you get through the group stage. And Mourinho is one of the best. Look at his record. He's just won. Even with Roma, where he got fired, he won the Conference League or the Europa League, maybe. I can't remember. He won the European title on a team that was underperforming before. But you just look at his record alone. He's undoubtedly one of the top managers ever. So if he's available, you have to
At least have a shot.
Yeah. I mean, I know some of the rumors when the whole thing went on where the U.S. were looking for other alternatives and then just went back to Berhalter, which again, don't get me started with what that process was in that sense. But I know Henry, but he's not had a good managerial career. So someone like Mourinho, who's already established, has won in all leagues with different teams. He won with Porto. Like, that's remarkable. And again, the U.S. talent is undoubtedly getting better. And if you go by the rankings, if you go by the current national team rankings by FIFA, we're top 15, which I think is fair. Like, we're probably 12, 13, which is a decent place to be with a World Cup in 3 years. But what's going to happen with Berhalter as a coach is we're going to progress not at all, and we'll probably lose in the round of 16 again, if I had to predict.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that too, because it's literally my next question. Say we got Jose Mourinho, which would be huge for us. Like, he would probably change the game for us completely. How do you see the World Cup going, especially with home field advantage for some of the matches? There's a USA setting, and the addition of Balogun.
So you're asking me if we had a real coach, essentially?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Honestly, we have so much potential. I could see us, and I've said this before, I think if you look at Croatia has gone far in the past too. They went to the final, lost to France in the final. I could see us. I'm not saying we're going to get to the final, but I could see us. I think the quality of the team is similar to a Denmark or Croatia. So I could see in a fantastic world a semifinal run. I'm not expecting that. With a good manager, I would hope we could get. So it's we lost this past year in the round of 16.
Yep.
So I would hope we could get to the final 8. That's progressing. That's one round farther than last year. But the World Cup is just the most unpredictable tournament at the end of the day. Like, you get a tough group, then you're out at the group stage.
You got to draw lucky sometimes.
Yeah, you got to draw Iran and Wales and get through. But like, speaking of the tournament last year, we played England extremely well. Arguably, we're the better team. Did deserve to win, but if there was a winner, it would have been us. And with guys like Balogun and Pepe, who's a really good player. I'm a big Malik Tillman fan, who plays for PSV as well. And then with guys like McKinney, who I've been reading that McKinney has been the top player for Juventus this year, who are right back at the top of Serie A. Tyler Adams is a wild card because of his injuries, but when he's playing, he's really, really, really top player. And then Pulisic, at the end of the day, like, he's going to be 2 years older, but I mean, he's killing it right now on a really top team. So you look at the pieces that the team has, and they're there. It's, in my mind, it's just the manager. So to answer your question, if we had a real manager, I would hope for Final 8. I think that would be a good benchmark.
Since the World Cup is going to be in the United States, rumors of the final being at MetLife, you think you're going to find your way to MetLife for the championship?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All I've been doing is looking at the stadiums that are going to be used for World Cup games. I need to go to at least one.
Yeah. Honestly,
Well. So my thought is a couple things to just run off on that question. So number one, the pricing of the game will be ridiculous. I can tell you that. I was looking at Copa America this summer because there was a game at MetLife as well, and if that is the standard for how much the game's going to cost, then I better start saving like today.
What were those tickets looking like? How much?
So I was looking at some friends it was like Bolivia. The teams don't matter, but it was a group stage game. And for a good seat, it was like $700. And then the semifinal game was like $2,500. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, like you got to think that a World Cup game is going to be $2,500 is like my reason.
At least. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, the answer is still yes for me. I don't know where that money's going to come from, but to talk about, you asked, one of your first questions was about how did I become a soccer trainer and coach? It was I really think and pray that it was a strategic decision to get involved with soccer and it coincides with where the World Cup's going to be in the Copa America and just the way that soccer in this country is moving. I made a strategic decision to get involved in soccer with the easiest way I knew how, which was something I was already doing. So you asked, am I going to get there? Yeah. Hopefully I have a big enough platform that I can leverage something, but if not, I'll pay however much to go to that.
I'm a big Penn State fan, so me and my friends were looking at the tickets for next year. The whiteout game is going to be against Ohio State, so those are at least $500. We're playing USC at home. Those are going to be like $300, but you got to go to those games.
Yeah, you got to. I mean,
and we're going to be a playoff team next year, hopefully. So those are going to be like $900.
Yeah, I have some Penn State friends. They all sound like you. They just say they're going to be a playoff team, and then I check. I'm not a big college football fan, but I check the standings, and they're like 12 at the end of the year.
Well, 12 now. 12 is going to be a playoff team now.
So you guys will be, yeah. So you guys. Knowing you guys, you'll finish 14th though next year, and then you'll be 2 spots. Yeah.
I wouldn't be too surprised. That's pretty much how it's been the last there have been 9 years out of the last 10 that if it was a 12-team playoff, we would have made the playoffs.
Well, to go on a little bit of a tangent, but obviously being in Philly, I'm an Eagles fan. And the closest thing I can equate to the Eagles offense yesterday was I've watched one Penn State game, and they're right. The same. It's the same.
You don't have to say it. You didn't have to say it, but you're right.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry. I mean, I can talk other sports too. It's not just soccer, but obviously soccer is the.
Yeah. Towards the end of it, I was going to talk to you about other Philadelphia sports, or just sports in general around the area.
No, we can talk. I'm a diehard Sixers fan.
Yeah. Yeah. So last season, Game 7 against Boston, we were recording a video. And throughout the entire video, you can just see you can just see me breaking down because it's getting worse and worse and worse.
Slowly gets more upset throughout the video.
Yeah. So I've actually been thinking. Someone mentioned to me, I was just talking to them about how I'm starting to grow a platform, and I want to obviously be different than a soccer. I don't want to just be a soccer creator. So I'm going to start to try and. I gotta think of how to strategically start bringing in I love the NBA, I love the Sixers, so try to somehow cross 2 sports into one page. It's not that pressing of an issue, but Philly sports, yeah. I mean the Sixers, we have season tickets. I actually haven't gotten a chance to go to a game. We were going to go tonight to the Nuggets game, I think they actually play like probably right now. But it was just snowstorm. So yeah, I mean, if you want to get me started with Philly sports, you can get me started. I growing up was a big Eagles fan, big Sixers fan, big Flyers fan, big Phillies fan. But then like as soccer became more prominent in my life and also more prominent in just what I was watching, it pretty much just took baseball and hockey away. Obviously, when the Phillies are in the playoffs, I'll watch, but when they lose, I'm not that upset. Just keeping it up front. And then, to be completely honest, more and more recently, as I watch like even more soccer, and that's all I watch, football has taken a step back. So for me, it's Arsenal and the Sixers. That's it.
Yeah.
I go over this thing in my head, who would I rather want to win? And it's crazy because I've been a Sixers supporter way longer, and I was watching this 9-72 team with, I could name 55 prospects. So when it comes to Philly sports and it comes to the Sixers, it's constant, it's just constant. The way I describe it is blue balls. I don't know if I'm allowed to say something like that on a podcast.
No, you're all good. You're all good.
You get even this year, and I'm bought in this year. I remember in the offseason, I was like, I'm not going to be bought in until we trade James Harden. We traded James Harden. We got some great pieces, and this is the best team that I've seen as a fan. Are we going to get past the second rounds? I don't know.
No, yeah, with the way the team's playing, this seems like definitely the best all-around team we've had.
Well, if you want to talk about coaching, Nick Nurse is a phenomenal.
Nick Nurse has been great. Yeah, he's great so far.
All right, I'm going to name 3 different names and they're all Arsenal players. I just want opinions on them, what we should do. Are they long-term players, short-term players? Like, what should we do in the future with these players? Bit of a controversial one to start, David Raya.
It's such a difficult question because last year was the most proud I was to be an Arsenal fan, even though they lost and didn't win the title. Yeah. I just wanted to get top 4. After getting 5th the year before, it was just about getting top 4 and being back in Champions League, which we did, and we outperformed the expectation. There's no doubt. Obviously, we were top of the table, and there was a real thought that we could do it, and we didn't. And there's all the memes and jokes that come with that, but that was the most inspired I was as an Arsenal fan last year. And when I think about the season, you think about Saka and you think about the goal scorers and you think about Martin Odegaard, but there's a lot of games, and there's one game in particular where I just think of Ramsdale just making like phenomenal saves. The 2-2 draw against Liverpool.
Liverpool, yep.
Yeah, he made the 2 of the best saves I've ever seen in my life. And he definitely had shortcomings and made some mistakes that ultimately led to us not winning the league. But he was one of the main guys that got us there. But it's such a complicated situation because now that we brought David Raya in, it's almost saying to him, what you did last year wasn't good enough. So and if I was him, I'd leave and go to a little worse of I saw there's some rumors about West Ham, which I think would make sense, or a mid-tier team. But back to your question, what should we do with Raya? If we have him here, I don't know. I guess sell him. I don't like him. So I like Ramsdale. I don't think they're that. I think they're extremely similar. And Raya's just made some mistakes this year. But that's the hardest guy you could ask. I'm also not a goalkeeper, so it's so hard. Mm-hmm. I've never really been a fan of a team that's had 2. Arsenal's never had. Almost no teams have 2 goalies that are as good as they are and so similar. So if I was I would. Once you bring him in, you got to sign him. You don't just bring him in and loan him back. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So if it were me, I would just sign him and hope Ramsdale stays and hope to have great competition. But what's going to happen is Ramsdale's going to leave. And, he is a very good goalie. He hasn't been good for us so far. So long story short, I hope we sign him, which we're going to do anyway.
Yeah, I talked to Mason about this a lot. I have a very strong opinion on David Raya. I just don't think he's the man for the job. And we saw how perfect, maybe not perfect, but we saw how good Ramsdale is, and his character on the field is I feel like is perfect for us. And I think he was just like the best goalie. I'm not saying he's the best goalie in the Prem because I could look towards like Ederson and Allison, but I think he was just the best goalie for Arsenal. And a couple bad games, maybe like some people could even say he didn't really have bad games, but for him to just get replaced like that. But yeah, I feel like Ramsdale definitely deserves that starting spot, and then we could like use Raya for like Champions League, but it's unfortunately it doesn't look that way. All right, next player is there's a lot of people are 50-50 with him. Eddie Nketiah.
Yeah, he's got to go. I like him as a backup, but we can probably get like 35-40 million for him. I have a good friend that's an Everton fan, and he always praised that we sell him and Nketiah to Everton. So if we're getting 35 to 40 mil, you get rid of him. He has honestly done a good job when called upon, but against big teams, he's not going to do the job. He's more of a mid-table Premier League striker, which is fine as a backup, but when your striker isn't banging in 15 to 20 goals, which we all know Gabi Jesus isn't going to do, you need a guy that's going to come off the bench and when he's called upon can, score 12 to 15 goals in a season. I don't think he's that guy.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Like watching him, I think that game against Man United last season really like gave me hope for him because him starting over Jesus that game because of I believe Jesus had an injury at the time, and him bagging 2 goals for us was extremely beneficial, especially that last minute one in like the 89th minute or so. It made me really believe, like, wow, like Eddie, he does have a future here. But as we've progressed, and you just showed that, like, he's either on his day or he's not, and we need someone who can get 20 plus goals in a season. So, next player is my favorite Arsenal player, Emile Smith-Rowe.
Yeah, I knew that one was coming. Yeah, it's tough. So it pains me to say what I'm going to say, but I'll try to put some logic into it. So during COVID, when our team was in a really bad way, when Unai Emery was the manager, or I guess Arteta, and it was probably a mix of, I think it was more when Arteta just got the job. He was our only good player, honestly. Saka was like just coming in the fold. And he was class. As an attacking player, I tend to like players that score goals and create goals, and he's really a great number 10. He creates, he can pass, he can shoot, he can drive the team forward. I just don't really think there's a place for him with Odegaard in the team. And I think he's too good of a player. And as much as he's like Arsenal through and through, at some point, if you're him, you got to look at your career path, and you're wasting some years on the bench. And he's a top player in my opinion. And similar to a guy like Eddie Nketiah, like when he gets his chance more like a couple of years ago, he took it. So for players like that, you got to get regular game time because that's the only way for you to reach your true potential. So if Arsenal, I think selfishly Arsenal want to keep him because he's a great bench piece. But I think if you're getting a decent sum of money for Nketiah, it's hard to say because Smith-Rowe hasn't really played in a while. But I would think they could probably get maybe more for Smith-Rowe, if not a similar price tag. And if the goal is to use those funds to get a striker, you got to let him go.
Yeah, it's honestly unfortunate to think about because like when he's scoring goals, like the one that I can think of is like that goal versus Chelsea a while back, where he just smoothly all he did was just pass it into like, and it was just so like he's just such a I wouldn't say you could say big game player, but like he comes through when it was needed, and he did, and we kind of like progressed without him, and it's just a shame. But I really do hope the best for him, and that he goes to like a team, maybe like Aston Villa.
I could see that. Aston Villa, yeah, one of like the similar to Nketiah. Maybe he's a little bit more potential. I honestly could see him like a Newcastle or something, just like a top,
Yeah,
like a little bit. Like I mean, not that Newcastle's this right now they're a tier below, but just maybe not a top 4 team, but yeah, I agree. I agree.
Okay, so this is a really big one. Who should Arsenal sign in January with keeping FFP in mind to push for the title?
Ivan Toney, but it's not gonna happen. I actually did a video on. I'm gonna start posting more on Arsenal just because I'm passionate about it. I don't think we're gonna sign anyone. Keeping the financial fair play in mind, I honestly have no idea how that stuff works because I just saw that Everton's getting another charge. So what are they going to knock 10 more points? So I'm just gonna say who I want, and who I want is a striker, and Ivan Toney's the perfect fit, but he's staying at Brentford. I would have been okay with like Dom. It's just hard because when you get someone in January, you're gonna buy someone that is overpriced because obviously you're doing it with a quick fix with in mind you're trying to win the title. So I would have been okay with a Dom Solanke on Bournemouth, but he's staying as well. There's just not that many good strikers. Speaking of financial fair play, which was something I read on Twitter, which I didn't really look up the source, but what I did see was that I don't know how this is the case, but Newcastle might have to offload Isak. If that's the case, we should sign him yesterday because that's beautiful. So to answer your question, at this point, I don't think there's anyone worth going for in January because the tax associated. Ivan Toney would be the only option, which isn't going to happen. So flash forward to the summer. I would say my top 3 striker targets are number 1, Ivan Toney, number 2, Victor Osimhen, number 3. I'll throw a little weird one out. Ben Sesko on Leipzig. He's like a lefty. Holland regen is how people describe him. That's my top 3.
I love how you just jump into the questions that we're about to ask before we do.
You're really like reading our minds here.
Yeah, bro. I can just flow with soccer conversation. This is why I'm gonna have a podcast one day.
Yeah. See me, I don't know anything about soccer still. I'm slowly trying to learn.
It's a good time. See, it's funny. I have a group of friends from high school that, as of 6 years ago, none of them followed soccer. And I'm not going to take total credit for it, but I definitely have had something to do with it, like me playing, but also me just like kind of pushing on them. Like that's all I watch. And now we have like a soccer group chat with my high school friends, which I never really thought would be even possible. And everyone that says, the thing for me is I can use soccer as a conversation starter with anyone. Like anyone I talk to and network with that likes soccer, I always ask like, who's your team? Just because it's such an easy, you talked about icebreaker, like such an easy icebreaker. Like I can talk about any soccer team for 20 minutes and just like show them that I know what I'm talking about as well. So for people that don't know about soccer, it's not like I look at you less. It's just, especially with the position, as we talked about, the World Cup's here, the Cup of America's here, like you're going to start to be in the minority. And I already think you already, not you in particular, just people that don't know soccer. Like, it's like when you have that one friend that doesn't know like the NFL, they're like left out. So I think hopefully I'm praying that, and once the World Cup's done, it's like, you don't know who Weston McKennie is. Like, do you even follow soccer? So just things like that. I just think it's just, obviously, I can't force someone to watch a sport, but I'm biased. So I just think the product of soccer, like when it pertains to comparing to a sport like the NFL, where the ball's in play like 11 minutes out of 3 hours, whereas soccer, yes, you might get a 0-0 game, but there's no commercials and it's the game the whole time.
Yeah.
I think obviously being someone that played the game and didn't play football, but I don't even remember what the question was. So
I don't know.
No.
Did I even ask a question?
No. He was just talking about how you're just getting into soccer.
Oh yeah. But 90% of my soccer knowledge comes from FIFA, and the other 10% comes from me just loving Andre Blake with all my heart.
I like that. Yeah, I would suggest. I tell people this: if you don't have the FootMob app, FOTMOB, it is in my mind they should have. I don't know if they can, but they should try to emulate this app for every other sport. It just breaks down like every game, and it's easy. It's easy. I'm literally looking at it right now just because I just wanted to check what time the Arsenal game was, and of course it's 7:30 in the morning. But it's a great app. It's more for like soccer nerds, but it just is a really good way of laying out. Like I talked about keeping track of Gio Reyna. Like that's how I keep track of him. I just go down to the Bundesliga, check his game. Oh, he played 5 minutes, so it's something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, and then how I said something about FIFA, like that hasn't taught me a lot, obviously, because it's just a video game, but it has opened up my eyes to soccer as a whole. And like, there's so many of my friends that don't pay attention to soccer also play FIFA, and we're all slowly getting into it more and more. So, all right, how you said that you won't take full credit. If you ask him, he's taking full credit for me getting into soccer.
No, not full credit.
But yeah, and with the World Cup coming, like last year, with the World Cup or 2 years ago, however long ago it was now at this point, it always feels like America, when we're in the World Cup, we always get a little bit more hype, but it feels like it's sticking around a little bit longer now, like, and it's slowly building around the country.
Yeah. FIFA's the best video game to ever be invented.
Right behind, all right, NCAA football, that's up there.
It's just not. It doesn't compare. So when I was in middle school, was when I started playing FIFA. I had this one friend that I also played soccer with, and we would go to his house right after school on a Friday, and we would just play. And there was this thing called FIFA Ultimate Team.
Yeah.
Which, you build your old team, you get packs, and I was addicted.
Oh, I was last year.
There's no other way to describe it. I was addicted. But the thing was, back then was when the Xbox 360 was the prominent platform. So that's where I first got addicted. And the Xbox One came out, and the graphics were, you can't even compare. And I remember my friend called me up. He just got the Xbox for Hanukkah, Christmas, whatever. Sent me on his phone, he FaceTimed me and showed me the graphics. And I still remember this day. I was like, "This is like the best one of my life. Like, it looks so real." I begged my parents got me the Xbox One for my birthday, whatever. And I would sit on snow day. Like, it was a snow day here. I would sit all day. I'd play all weekend. And then where it really got me was they have this thing called Weekend League. And when they first came out with it, you'd have to play 40 games, which is a ton. Like, it's not healthy. And I would play every one of those 40 games with time to spare.
Oh my God.
That game. I mean, that game. To be fair, that game also has given me like a lot of what I realized with, especially with soccer. I know so many names, but I don't necessarily know like where they come from. So without a doubt, a lot of them come from FIFA. Like I can't downplay that. Obviously, most probably come from me watching a game, but the amount I play FIFA, I mean, there's all these memes on like TikTok and Twitter. It's like when your social studies teacher asks you like, how do you know all these flags? Like, it's really, I can name, my geography is off the charts. Not my geography, my flag. I can name anything, like any African country, easy. It just I played with them in FIFA, so I remember them.
Yeah. I'll be at his house and he'll open up a pack, and all it will show is the flag and the position, and he'll just be naming just yelling random player's name, and he's right 80% of the time.
No, it's easy. I mean, I have stories about.
It's easy.
I've had stories, where I took the parents' credit card and put too many packs on the bill and got
no.
And that was like the start of me understanding what it was like to be addicted to not even a real game. But honestly, looking back, like those were, I don't know if this is a weird thing to say, but I'm just gonna say it was some of the best moments of my childhood were just playing.
That's awesome.
I don't play video games at all. I haven't gotten FIFA for a couple of years just because it's just not the same.
Mhm.
No, I was playing FIFA last year, and me and my friend, he's at college, and we'd be up just playing FIFA till like 4 a.m. It was unhealthy.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
like
it's
two
unhealthy.
guys who don't even have like no allegiance really to soccer like at all,
Right.
and they're still.
That's how you know. That's how you know it's such a good game, though.
Exactly.
Like I'll check my work schedule. I have to be in at 5, and I'm playing FIFA at 4. It's like, oh boy, no sleep, but it is what it is.
It is what it
It was
is,
bad.
right? Yeah, no, I feel that. That all resonates for sure.
All right. So when we get Urian Timbers back from his ACL injury, what does our starting back line look like? Obviously, once he's fully fit, and do we sign another defender, or is our back line going to be strong enough, you think?
Damn, bro, you say when you're into soccer and dropping names like Urian Timber. That's good.
He wrote it down. I just read it.
I mean, I don't know how to read European names, but it sounded good to me. So we're missing him dearly. We have a left back problem. Zinchenko's been horrific this year. I think that Timber coming back solves a lot of problems. I think Tomiyasu being healthy solves a lot of problems. Between him, Tomiyasu, Ben, we have enough defenders, in my opinion. I think in the summer, I could see us maybe signing another right back just as cover for Ben White. But other than that, Timbers, from what I saw in preseason, he's really good, and Tomiyasu's really good too. It's just a shame that both of them are out, and we have to start Zinchenko because he's just. I mean, I'm not in soccer shape right now, but I could drill past Zinchenko if I really wanted to. His defending is horrific.
I'm a big Zinchenko fan. I'm very Ukrainian, and he's just a player that I like watching. When I play soccer, I'm an outside back, so I just like sometimes his play style. But I can 100% agree with you. He's been playing so poorly. I think the only good game he's had so far is Burnley when he scored that.
I like him. I like him as a player, but I like him in a game that we don't have to worry about defending. So when we're playing Liverpool and he's up against Mo Salah, and he just doesn't have a chance. And that's the goal. That's just replaying in my head was that was probably the easiest goal Mo Salah scored in a while.
Exactly.
He kind of just flipped off,
like that little poke, and it did absolutely nothing.
So yeah, no. Look, I like I like his passion. He wears his emotions on his sleeve. I can really resonate with that. But this year he's hurt us. He's definitely hurt us.
So what about signing a center back? Because last season we saw that when Saliba got hurt and we put Holding in, it was a real big factor. So maybe Man City, for example, we lost 4-1 to them. We didn't have Saliba, even though Rob Holding scored our goal, which don't get me started on how that even happened. But do you think maybe we get another center back trying to just secure some depth, or do you think maybe someone like Jakub Kiwior is good enough for that?
It's hard to talk about Kiwior. I haven't really seen him play that much to even judge him on a fair basis. You would like to have at least one center back that can fill in and do a job. So yeah, I think targeting a center back. I think at the end of the day, when you really look at it though, is Saliba in particular, but even Gabriel are just massive parts of the team. So if one of them is going to be hurt, our chance to win is just significantly lower. So I guess some cover at center back. It's always nice to have cover in different positions. And if Arteta thinks Kiwior is not good enough, then yeah, maybe we sign someone. But it's definitely not an area that we need to look at.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, bro.
We'll leave a link to your. Do you have a YouTube at all, or is it just TikTok, Instagram?
Just TikTok, Instagram. I think YouTube's probably something that's going to come.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll definitely
Yeah,
leave a
we'll
link to that
leave all your
stuff,
stuff like right on the screen.
And if you
Appreciate
wanna clip anything from it, post it on yours, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, bitch so